time for the Rob Johnson Sports Show, presented by the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Oh, yes. Welcome to Rob Johnson on Thursday night. This smooth Thursday night as we listen to some tunes. That's enough. That's enough of that. Anyway, I just want to bring the mood into everybody tonight because we are here on a Thursday night here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. I'm your guy, Rob Johnson. Let me see if I can fix this. Well, not really, but we'll put it like this. Anyway, well, y'all will see it in the background. It's all good. That's my light. Anyway, I'm your guy, Rob Johnson. Welcome to the Rob Johnson Sports Show. Another episode of the Rob Johnson Sports Show here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Is that too light? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, let's do that. There we go. That's bright enough. Just have to deal with the background. Anyway, welcome to the show. Of course, as you guys know, it's episode 39. Episode 40 will be coming very soon. I'm hoping that every Monday night I'll be able to give you an episode of Rob Johnson Sports Show, maybe even 2 a week, but we'll see how it goes. Folks, earlier tonight, my colleagues from the Legacy Maker Sports Network were talking about the Super Bowl. And they were talking about the game. They were talking about how Kansas City played the San Francisco 49ers and how basically it was a game where the 49ers should have won. You know, the 49ers should have won the football game. When you look at things, right, the San Francisco 49ers had this game. You look at the first quarter, it was 0-0. And we're like, hey, you know, the Kansas City offense looks out of sync. And they looked out of sync because if you remember, just a week prior or 2 weeks prior, the Detroit Lions have really went down the field, up and down the field on the Kansas City Chiefs. I actually had Isaiah Pacheco as the MVP in this game. Well, he definitely wasn't the MVP in this game. He definitely wasn't the reason why Kansas City won. Now, he contributed, but he wasn't the reason why Kansas City won this football game. Now, let me say this about the Kansas City Chiefs. They put the ball on the ground 5 times. They put the ball on the ground 5 times. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And do you know how many times the Kansas City Chiefs gave the ball back to the 49ers on those 5 fumbles? Once. You know how many times the San Francisco 49ers fumbled in this game? Twice. And here's the kicker. The first fumble they had was by Christian McCaffrey. What happened to that football? The football was inside the Kansas City Chiefs red zone area. Christian McCaffrey fumbles, which, I mean, the man was already taking a pounding anyway. I said he needed at least 30 touches for him to win this game. He had 30, 22 on the ground, 8 by catching the football. He's definitely their best player. I don't want to hear any debates. I don't want to hear any crap about, oh, it's Brock Purdy. No, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Brock Purdy. The man is Christian McCaffrey. That is the best player for the San Francisco 49ers. And he proved that, right? So let's go to the other fumble. I believe it was by Ricky James. Ricky James, that's his name. Former player by the Kansas City Chiefs. Ricky James, yeah. Well, Mr. James, let me make sure I got the, what was it, Ray McLeod. Let me see. I believe it was Ricky James who fumbled the ball, if I'm not mistaken. Or it may have been Ray McLeod. I know Ray was back there to get the ball, but I believe it was dropped by someone else. Anyway, that's neither here or there. They fumbled the ball, right? That's in the third quarter. What happens? What happens? The Kansas City Chiefs score. In fact, let's go through this, folks. The 49ers are up 10-3 going into the second half. Kansas City scores 10 points in the second half, in the third quarter. And we want to blame Steve Wilks for this. Patrick Mahomes only scored basically what? One touchdown in regulation, and the rest of the time they fumbled the ball 5 times. They were physical. Let's go to the 49ers defense. Let's look at the 49ers and how physical they were. In fact, let's go to the sacks. Let me look at the stats here because hey, the stats don't lie, folks. The stats are pretty legit here. So the 49ers, let's see, the 49ers sacked the Kansas City Chiefs 3 times for 8 yards, and the Chiefs sacked them 4 times for 1 yard. So that means that Brock Purdy wasn't taking them any chances. What I'm confused about is this, and I know I'm going along soliloquy or whatever, but this is why I'm a little bit confused. The reason I'm confused is because Kyle Shanahan, my man, did you not just see your quarterback rush for like 60-plus yards against Detroit? Why didn't you let him run the football more? Why didn't you allow him to do more with his feet? Let's look at the stats again, folks. Rushing. Brock Purdy had 3 carries for 12 yards. Okay. 3 carries for 12 yards. All right, let's go back to the NFC Championship game. And bear with me, folks, here because I'm doing 16 things at one time. So please bear with me as I give you these statistics. You go back to the NFC Championship game. You know how many carries Brock Purdy had? He had 5 carries for 48 yards, 9.6 yards per carry. Shouldn't that tell you something, Kyle Shanahan? Shouldn't that tell you that your quarterback, Brock Purdy, can move with his feet? Then doesn't that tell you, Kyle Shanahan, that you should be able to allow your quarterback and Brock Purdy to do more things, Kyle Shanahan? Kyle Shanahan, you are 64-51 in your career. 64-51. You've had the most talent that anyone in the National Football League can have. You know, and again, let's go down the list. You trade for Christian McCaffrey. You draft a really good Deebo Samuel out of South Carolina. But anyway, let's look at these names. Let's look at these names, folks. You got, even though people can say what they want about Brock Purdy was really good at Iowa State. He was really good at Iowa State. How he was Mr. Irrelevant makes no sense. However, Tom Brady was really good at Michigan. He was picked, 199th overall? So it doesn't really matter where you're picked. It just matters when you come in the league. Do you show the league what you're really all about? So I really don't get too hyped about what they do in the draft, what the draft stands in are, because if you can play, then you can play. But I will say that Brock Purdy is not the key. But that's the problem, Kyle Shanahan. You wanted to be the hero. You wanted to show everybody that you are the boy genius. You wanted to show everybody that you would get up under the shadows of your father, even though your father beat Kansas City in the playoffs. Even though your father defeated a John Elway. Who at that time was the GOATs of the game, was one of the big quarterback names in the game when it comes to Patrick Mahomes. In fact, 3 games, Kyle Shanahan, and I want you to look at my face when I say this, 3 games you had a 28-3 lead. Even though you weren't the head coach, 28-3, 10-point lead, 10-point lead. You had an opportunity to beat the GOATs, and the GOATs beat you. See, it's easy for you to beat the Cowboys in the regular season because, see, the Cowboys don't really have that many expectations. We know what they're going to be. It's easy to come back against an overzealous team like the Detroit Lions because Dan Campbell's the head coach, and I like Dan Campbell, but he makes some really questionable decisions at times. But when it comes to what's real, when it comes to facing the creme de la creme, when it comes to facing the big boys, just like they used to say in WCW where the big boys play, Yeah, when you get up to the big boys table, you lose. You lose. Um, so let me put you back up here, Kyle. I'm sorry. In fact, no, let me show this guy. This is Brandon Staley, right? They're saying that Brandon Staley could be the next defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. 24-24 record. He wasn't that good when he was at and when he was with the Chargers. Um, he's gonna if he does replace this guy, Steve Wilks, and yes, I put revenge. I hope Steve Wilks goes to an NFC team, and I hope he gets revenge on Kyle Shanahan. I hope he gets revenge because there's no reason that this man, Steve Wilks, should have been fired. Not whatsoever. You give me a reason why Steve Wilks should have been fired. Let me know. I really want to know, folks. Let me know a reason. Kyle Shanahan, again, you know what? Let me go bring him back up here. You know what Kyle Shanahan's problem is, folks? You know what his big problem is, besides the fact that he can't beat teams that his father beat? You know who he is? You know who Kyle Shanahan is? He's a newer version of Marty Schottenheimer. I am a Marty Schottenheimer fan. I love Marty Schottenheimer. But guess what? When Marty Schottenheimer in the 80s, he couldn't beat John Elway. He couldn't get over the hump with the Browns. He couldn't get over the hump with Kansas City. Kansas City in the 97-98 was 13-3 in a game that will live in infamy. January 4th, 1998, 14-10, Kansas City loses to the Denver Broncos in the playoffs. Guess who the head coach was of the Denver Broncos? Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan came from the hard knocks. He had to work his tail off to get here. He had to do this. He had to do that. And yes, he had talent with John Elway, but John Elway couldn't win the big one. They lost to the Jaguars, and everybody thought, oh, John might retire, and what's John going to do, and blah, blah, blah. Then guess what? Terrell Davis starts to get better. Terrell Davis starts to do his thing even more. And what happens, ladies and gentlemen, the Denver Broncos win the World Series. They win the Super Bowl. They beat the Packers. They beat the Falcons. The irony about that, again, is Mike Shanahan beat the Falcons, and Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons with a 20-3 lead couldn't win, couldn't get to the big one. That's crazy, right? That's crazy. The other crazy thing is Kyle Shanahan, you know, he always is beating up on the 40. He's always beating up on the Packers, you know. So, hey, I mean, maybe he should switch over to the AFC. Maybe he should go to the AFC like his daddy was and play against the Packers in the Super Bowl. Maybe he'll win at that time. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, man, it's crazy because when you look at Kyle Shanahan, when you look at everything that happened in this game, there's no reason for the 49ers to lose. The 49ers were in full control. Steve Wilks, again, Mr. Revenge, Steve Wilks did everything a defensive coordinator was supposed to do. And then this man right here, Mr. 64-51, who wants to prove that he's a quarterback whisperer. That's why he didn't give the ball to Christian McCaffrey even more. In fact, here's the crazier part, folks. Why didn't he give the ball to Elijah Mitchell even more? I don't understand that, right? In the Super Bowl, Elijah Mitchell had 2 carries for 8 yards. For 8 yards. Elijah Mitchell is a really good running back, folks. He's a really good running back. He is, I promise you. Give him some opportunities. Give Elijah Mitchell some real opportunities. And I promise you, he will do some good things. He's not a starting running back, but he can spell Christian McCaffrey. That speed he brings in can really hurt. So, Kyle Shanahan, who are you? I mean, everybody's leaving. Let me bring my face back on the screen. Everyone's leaving. Your GM left. A couple coordinators left. You fired Steve Wilks. People are going places like Washington. I mean, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air left Philly, he went to California. People are leaving California. People are leaving California to go to snowy Washington. People are leaving San Francisco, California to go to Washington. Excuse me there, folks. Had to sneeze there, my fault. But anyway, again, you look at Mr. Marty Schottenheimer. In fact, I'm gonna give you guys some more stats. Since I tell you guys that I'm all about the stats and I'm all about the stats being there, I want you all to check this out. So, Marty Schottenheimer started coaching in 1984 with Cleveland. He coached in Cleveland through 1988. This was his record: 4-4, 8-8, 12-4, 10-5, 10-6. 10-6. That was the last year in Cleveland. His first year with the Kansas City Chiefs was from 1989 to 1998. Check out these records: 8-7, 11-5, 10-6, 10-6, 11-5, 9-7, 13-3, 9-7, 13-3 again, 7-9, and then he goes to Washington. So you have 2 13-3 seasons. That's wild, right? You go to Washington, you get 1 year. You're 8-8. The next year you go to San Diego. That's 2002, 8-4, 8-8 as well. In 2003, you're 4-12. In 2004, you go 12-4. 05, you go 9-7. And in 2006, you go 14-2, lose to the New England Patriots, and you go home. Marty Schottenheimer is one of the all-time great coaches. We never know if he'll ever get into the Hall of Fame. 226 in his career. 226 in his career. That's wild. That's wild. Now, let's bring me back on screen again. All I keep hearing about is Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy should get fired, blah, blah, blah. I get it, right? What does Mike McCarthy have that Kyle Shanahan does not have? Let's think about this. I'm thinking. Oh, that's right. A Super Bowl ring. And who did Mike McCarthy beat in that Super Bowl? Mike Tomlin. Folks, and Kyle Shanahan, who did he lose to? Lost to Bill Belichick, lost to Andy Reid twice. And Mike Tomlin is considered a great coach, correct? So all I'm saying, folks, is that Kyle Shanahan is a really good head coach. Did he get his job because of his father? Yeah, he did. Is he his father? No, he's not. Because his father had to go through some things with those Denver teams that was just crazy. I mean, think about this, folks. You get the rematch against Jacksonville. You know, you beat Jacksonville. I believe it was Jacksonville they beat. I believe it was Jacksonville they did beat. Or was it Jacksonville? I think it was Jacksonville. And then the next week you go on to beat. In fact, let's go back and I'm going to go back and look at that really quick and just make sure. Let's go back to those playoffs. Let's go back to the 1997 playoffs. Let's go back to the 1997 Broncos so I can make sure that we have the correct information here. That year, the Broncos were 12-4, second in the AFC West. I knew they were pretty decent. 12-4, but mind you, a game 12-4, and you don't even win your own division. That's crazy, right? So somehow, some way, and I don't know how this was. I don't know how it was in Mile High when they had the better record. Let me see. The Jaguars at that time in '97. See, they were 11-5, so they were second in the division. Oh, that's right. Because back then, the two wild card teams with a better record. You didn't have to actually have the same record or whatever. But anyway, they beat the Jaguars 42-17. The next week, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs at Kansas City. Then they went to Three River Stadium, and I remember this game like it was yesterday because I was rooting so hard for Cordell Stewart and the Pittsburgh Steelers. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers at that time. Pittsburgh was so good. Pittsburgh was so good. They were 11-5. They were first in the AFC Central. AFC Central was tough at that time. Go back and research the AFC Central. And then they beat the Green Bay Packers. That's what Mr. Mike Shanahan did. Then the next year, and then the next year, what does Mike Shanahan do? Let's go to the '98 Broncos. I know they beat the Jets in the they beat the Jets in the daggone AFC Championship game. I do remember that, and I do remember they went 14-2. Their first loss was to the Giants or something like that, which was just strange. But anyway, the divisional playoffs they played the Miami Dolphins with who? Who? Dan Marino. What happened? 38-3. Dominated them. Dominated them. I remember this year. There was the 98, 99. What do you call them? What do you call them? The 98, 99 Miami Dolphins. I remember I think they beat Seattle. Was it Seattle they beat? Because back then Seattle was in the AFC. Back then Seattle was in the AFC. No, I'm sorry. They beat Buffalo. That's right. That was the year after, because the year after Miami got destroyed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, like 65-3 or something like that in the second round. That was the 99-2000 playoffs. Anyway, that year they beat the Buffalo Bills in Pro Player Stadiums. They won the division. The next week they got absolutely mollywopped by the Broncos, who were 14-2 again that year. They beat the Jets 23-10, and then they dominate the Atlanta Falcons 34-19, and probably one of the more boring Super Bowls of all time. And I really don't mean to be mean when I say that to the Atlanta Falcons, but that was the year, and that could have been so much different. I think Kyle Shanahan, I'm not Kyle because he hasn't won anything, but Mike Shanahan. If Mike Shanahan had beaten that Minnesota Vikings team, his aura would have gone even higher. But Mike Shanahan, just like his son, can screw things up. Mike Shanahan, I believe Kyle was on his staff when this happened. They benched Donovan McNabb for Rex Grossman. They screwed up RG3. Oh man. So decision making isn't that good when it comes to these two guys at times. But again, Mike has 2 rings and Kyle has none. So this is my advice to Kyle Shanahan. You're losing a lot of people. They're going from LA. They're going from LA to San Francisco to LA. They're going to Washington on the East Coast. They're going all these different places. If you are going to think that you are the best coach in the league, you better prove it this year. Because I'll continue to say it, Bill Belichick is hovering around you. He's hovering around Dallas. He's hovering around a lot of different franchises right now. Bill Belichick wants to win. He knows his best chance to win is to go to one of these top-notch franchises. And I believe that John Lynch is looking at you like, hey, man, you need to get it done. Because if you don't get it done, I'm going to find another person to take this show on the road. The 49ers are an injury or 2 away from this whole thing collapsing. They are in salary cap hell. Dudes want to get paid. So you're going to have to figure that out. And again, I'm going to say this as well. Stop worrying about Dallas and what Dallas is doing. Yeah, Dallas ain't won in a long time. But you guys haven't won in a long time either. In fact, you guys won a year before Dallas won. That makes it longer for you. And I'm going to tell you this. The standard of the San Francisco 49ers is to win championships. Jerry Rice don't take L's. Steve Young don't take L's. Joe Montana never took an L. But when you have a head coach who is so selfish in his ways and wants to prove everybody wrong, these are the results that you are going to get. And when you think about hiring people like this, it's really going to get bad. Kyle Shanahan, get it done in 24-25. I believe you can. I believe you have the team to do it. But if you don't get it done this upcoming season, that might be it for you, and that might be it for this 49ers team for a while. Let's remember what this 49ers team looked like in the early days of Alex Smith. It wasn't pretty. And then the tail end of Colin Kaepernick, where after the Harbaugh era, it wasn't pretty. So if you don't want the 49ers to go back to that depth, that deep hole they were in at one time, Make sure you turn things around, because if you don't, they will be back in that hole for sure. Now, let's get to our next story of the night. And did I put it on here? Give me 1 second, folks. Thought I put it on here. Let me see. Here we go. Here we go. Just one little graphic. Give me 1 second. Trying to get this graphic on, and it is not working. There we go. Sometimes these graphics, man, you gotta put them on the last second. Anyway, big ups to Caitlin Clark. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Caitlin Clark of the Iowa Lady Hawkeyes is now the all-time leading scorer in NCAA women's basketball history. And I'm just going to simply start calling her CC. Caitlin Clark is the all-time women's scorer in college basketball. She passes Kelsey Plumlee for the all-time lead in women's college basketball history. She has been a great player, whether you like her, whether you don't like her. She can put up buckets. She is a stat machine that is always waiting to happen. In fact, let me pull up their game so I can give you guys the exact numbers that she had tonight. We're going to get to another game in one quick second. Oh, and by the way, Virginia Tech did beat Duke tonight. Shout out to Legacy Maker Sports Number covering that. 61-56, number 12, Virginia Tech beats Duke. Caitlin Clark surpasses Kelsey Plum with 3,528 points career. Iowa takes care of Michigan 106-89. Caitlin Clark had 49 points, a point away from 50. She almost dropped a 50 burger. If the WNBA does not capitalize off this young lady right here and Angel Reese, that league ain't never going to prosper. She is the truth. 49 points. Yes, they've lost some games. They're 22. I believe it's 23-3 on the season. Sometimes the score app doesn't update the actual win-loss record. They're number 4 team in the nation. They're going to continue to move up, and I'm anticipating a great NCAA ladies finals, Final Four, etc. So, Caitlin Clark, 49 points. Good God. Again, let's look at the graphic. Caitlin Clark, 49 freaking points. My God. She just killed it. Now, let's go to our next team we're going to talk about, and that is the great Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman continues to be great. I believe now she's has 784 wins career. When I was doing my research tonight, she was 783 and 597, coaching 17 years at Temple and at South Carolina. 2 national championships, 2017, 2022. This woman is the truth. They come back tonight to beat Tennessee. I don't care what year it is. I don't care what Tennessee's record is. I don't care if they're struggling. You go down to Knoxville, that team is going to play tough. You know, Pat Summitt used to have that team going so hard. And I think that's the one thing that makes me sad, even though that we have this era where women's basketball has gotten so much better. UConn isn't the same. Tennessee isn't the same. I mean, the days of Tennessee and UConn winning 50 straight, 60 straight, that's over with. You know, winning 100-plus games, that's over with. The competition in women's basketball has gotten so much better. There's so many good teams. There's so many good players, and everybody's spread. The wealth is spread out between so many teams. South Carolina defeats Tennessee 66-55. Coach Dawn Staley, who I continue to say should be an NBA coach. She's one of the best coaches out there. She built this program at South Carolina from nothing to something. They are 2-time national champions. They're going to probably win a national championship this year. The team is so good. They're so hungry. They want to get back. They were undefeated last year. They lost to Iowa in the Final Four on the route to the national championship game against LSU. They played tough against LSU. They took LSU to the brink back and forth between LSU and South Carolina. The game earlier this season, both teams play hard. Ultimately, South Carolina comes out. They get Angel Reese in foul trouble. This is a legit South Carolina team. Coach Staley is the best in the game, and I continue to wish her nothing but the best because she is the best coach, not only in women's college basketball, but she could be one of the best coaches in sports and basketball, period, because she is just that good. Um, let's talk. Let's see. We'll see what else we have tonight. Again, make sure you follow the Rob Johnson Sports Show here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. You can follow it on the Legacy Maker Sports Network YouTube, Facebook pages. You can also follow this on the Rob Johnson Media pages. My two Facebook pages, Rob Johnson and Rob Johnson Media, and on my YouTube as well. Help me get to 500 subscribers on Rob Johnson Media. Now, really quick, folks, and we're not going to be too long on this because I've had a long day tomorrow. Let's talk quick NBA tonight. Minnesota Timberwolves are leading the Portland Trailblazers 73-58. The Milwaukee Bucks go down to the Memphis Grizzlies 113-110. Bad loss there for Doc Rivers and the crew. And Golden State Warriors defeat the Jazz 140-137. The question has been, who's going to be that second half team? And I really believe the Lakers are going to be that team. If you look at what they've been doing, you look at what Anthony Davis has been doing, that team has everything that you need to be legitimate. Anthony Davis, he stayed healthy through the first half. LeBron James has primarily stayed healthy in the first half. You need these two guys to be your main ingredient, but you need the other guys. You need the Vanderbilts to come back and get healthy. You need Rudy Hachimura, who scored 36 last night against the Jazz. They scored 138. It was 138 to 122. They scored 138 without LeBron James, Austin Reeves, etc. It's so many good players on this Los Angeles Lakers team that you just feel like that run is coming in the second half. Now, you look at some other teams, the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic are tied for 7th, 8th, respectively, in the 7th, 8th spot. The Indiana Pacers are 6th. The Sixers are 5th. You can kind of see the Sixers kind of sliding without Joel Embiid. The Knicks are still in the 4th spot, and you expect them to hold that there. But the Indiana Pacers could get hot. The Magic are only 3 games out. The Heat are only 3 games out. Right now, the Boston Celtics are the best team in the East, with the Cleveland Cavaliers second. I think that Milwaukee will start to get better, but they're going to have to get that momentum going very quickly in the second half if they want to be a good team. Oklahoma City is a half a game up on the Clippers. You look at the Phoenix Suns. They're 5.5 games out. They're tied with the New Orleans Pelicans. Both teams have identical records at 33-22. The Lakers, as I was talking about before, they're 9 games out of the first seed in the West, but 2 games behind Sacramento and 2.5 games behind Dallas. So I think that the Lakers can catch fire. I think that they'll be able to win some games in the second half. It's going to be very interesting. I think that your seeding is not going to really matter in this upcoming playoffs. Like, it hasn't really mattered in the last couple of years because any team can beat any team, especially out in the West. Now, looking at the East, I mean, it's the usual suspects. If you're going to have to play Miami in the first round, if you're going to play Orlando in the first round, and even the Atlanta Hawks, you're going to be in trouble. The Bulls, I have to see more from them. I have to see more from them to be a dangerous team. I don't believe the Bulls right now are a dangerous team. Now, are they in the play-in? Yes, they are. They are 4 games up on Brooklyn. They're 2 games ahead of Atlanta. So they are in that realm where they should be in the play-in or at least get the 7th or 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. Going back to the West, you look at the play-in teams. You look at the Lakers. You look at the Mavericks, the Kings, and the Warriors. I believe the Lakers are better than the Warriors right now. Even if the Lakers end up in the 7th spot, they're still in a good position. But if I were them, I would want to get to that 6th spot. You get to that 6th spot, probably play the Clippers. And the thing about the Clippers is you don't know if they're going to be healthy come playoff time. That's the biggest thing. I believe it was either James Brown or Lamont Thomas who brought it up tonight. Oh, my mic went out. Sorry about that, folks. Give me 1 second. Mic went out. hate this mic, man. Anyway, fix this thing. But no, it was either Lamont Thomas or James Brown who said tonight that, you know, you can't really trust. My mic is sorry for my mic. You can't really trust teams who have histories of getting injured. And if you look at it, the Los Angeles Clippers have a history of getting injured, whether it be Kawhi Leonard, whether it be Paul George, whether it be James Harden not showing up in the playoffs. So all those elements of the NBA, and when you look at those teams, like the Clippers, who do not show up for the playoffs at times, James Harden, who does not show up at times, the Philadelphia 76ers for years have had issues in the playoffs. So you can't ignore that history. But what I will say is that this Clippers team, if they are different from any year, this would be the year they're different. They're really good. You cannot dismiss the Denver Nuggets. Maybe they're just waiting for the postseason to get here. Now, you got to remember, there were some injuries in the West last year. There were some teams that were dealing with some stuff, etc. So this year is going to be a lot harder for the Denver Nuggets to get back to the finals because the teams are healthy. Now, if teams start dropping like flies, I mean, who knows? But we'll definitely see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 39 of the Rob Johnson Sports Show. I will be back with you guys hopefully on Monday night to discuss more sports as we talk about Monday Night Raw and other things as well. This has been the Rob Johnson Sports Show here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and Rob Johnson Media. Hope you guys have a good night and see you next time.